electorate spans, I think, 800,000 square kilometres, the size of a couple of European countries. And it takes in so many different sort of sub-economies, I suppose, agriculture, mining, tourism being there. How do you sort of manage that? Tell us, what does a typical day look like when you are not in Perth in Parliament doing sitting weeks?
So often on a Thursday afternoon after Parliament, I'd get in my car and I'd drive generally up to Carnarvon first, or stop halfway, get to Geraldton, have a bit of a kip, and off you go, and try to get to the office by at least 8:30 in the morning, and you will often see some constituents. Then after that, you either head to wherever you've got a function, maybe in Exmouth, maybe out at Gascoyne Junction or Tom Price. So often that once you're up in Carnarvon, you'll work out what you can do over those next few days, because you can be anywhere in my electorate at any given day when it comes to how vast it is, and there's always something happening. So a typical day, I'll give you last week's. I left Parliament after question time on Tuesday and drove up to Carnarvon because I had some tourism meetings on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, Wednesday night I spent in Carnarvon. Thursday I drove to Meeka Station, which is an hour north of Yalgoo. So that took me a good 7 hours to get to. Stayed there and had a look at the dog fence that is being built by an Aboriginal contracted business, which was quite good to see. Then went the next morning on the Friday, went to Yalgoo Shire meeting, spent an hour there, and then drove on to Mount Magnet for a quick meeting, then Kew for a few more meetings, and Meekatharra that night, where I caught up with a few people and had a few quiet ones. Then left on Saturday morning and drove 300 k's for an hour's meeting at a remote community called Burrangust Remote Community, and spoke to them about not having a shop, so they can't buy any goods because their shop's closed, or fuel. So wanting to see how I could assist them in getting a Woolworths delivery out there. So working on that, then I had to be in Mount Magnet before 5 o'clock for the opening of the running track that they've got. So they compete with putting hoses together and what have you. So drove to Mount Magnet on the Saturday night by 5 o'clock. Did the opening, left early in the morning at 4 o'clock to go see my wife's grandmother's. She had a 92nd birthday, so I thought it was best to turn up, and here I am today.
How many k's would you have driven last week?
So just over 4,000 kilometres, driving around doing that. So when people say, where do you live? Well, I clearly live in a car.
And you obviously like driving, and you have to drive. How do you pass the time? There's no such thing as downtime anymore. Is it a case of just catching up? I mean, phone reception, of course, in the region is one of your pet topics and pet issues that you pursue, improving that reception.
Very hard to get phone reception in a lot of places, especially some of the areas that I cover. Very hard sometimes to get ABC. So I'm not very good when it comes to downloading music and what have you, so I've got my 5 albums that I rotate, but often
through the CD player.
Through the CD player, and I've also got The Barefoot Investor. I listen to that book. I'm currently listening to that book, which I've been told that I have to listen because my wife wants me to try and be a bit more responsible in the finances. So I'm listening to that at the moment, and I actually enjoy a bit of silence as well. So it's actually quite nice to have everything off and think about what to do next.
We've touched on how vast and diverse the electorate is. I mean, what would be, let's say, the top 5 issues you think across mining and pastoral?
Well, health's always a big one. So we've got hospitals that lost their funding with the change of government. Aged care in Carnarvon is probably the biggest issue, and an issue that needs to be resolved pretty quickly, because we're seeing people leave Carnarvon to go to aged care here in Perth or Geraldton, and often don't last that long because once they've been taken out of the environment. So that's a big one. 1 Mile Jetty in Carnarvon is falling down, and that needs some urgent attention. But also the cost of flights. It's very expensive to fly anywhere in regional Western Australia. So that's the biggest inhibitor, I think, for Perth tourism and also regional tourism, because people come to Perth, they want to experience what WA has to offer, but can't actually afford to get to a lot of the places. So that also has an effect with internal tourism as well. So they're probably the big issues at the moment.
Yeah. And is there much camaraderie among the upper house members from that part of the world? I'm thinking, you know, the Robin Scotts, the Robin Chappells, we've got Kyle McGinn, Ken Baston. Does there become an opportunity? Because I'm sure you guys run into each other in remote locations here and there, and you put party politics to one side and just enjoy a beer together?
Oh, look, that always happens. I mean, you'll be in very remote places, and occasionally you'll bump into the upper house members who fly in and fly out because they've got such a large area to cover. So often you'll see them around, and always have a coffee or a beer, especially if you're staying over together at some regional town.